Chelsea are winning again, but this doesn't feel like a normal bounce. 3 wins in a row, 1 goal conceded, 5th in the Premier League. And the numbers tell a story that goes deeper than the scorelines. Against Brentford, Chelsea won with less than 46% possession and just 6 shots, yet never lost control. In Europe, they broke down a stubborn Paphos side with 70% possession and a late winner, pushing themselves toward automatic qualification. And now at Selhurst Park, a 3-1 win built on transition speed, midfield authority and ruthless efficiency. Goals from Estêvão, João Pedro and Enzo Fernández, with Palace reduced to chasing shadows long before the red card arrived. This is all happening under a manager who has been in the job weeks, not months. A Chelsea side that used to look chaotic now looks deliberate. Players once unsure of their roles are suddenly decisive. Reece James is fit and leading again. Caicedo is dictating tempo, not surviving. Young attackers are playing with freedom, but within a structure. This doesn't look like a short-term new manager bounce. It looks like a team being reprogrammed. So how has Chelsea FC changed so quickly under Liam Rosenior? What exactly has shifted tactically without the headlines noticing? And why are so many players suddenly looking like the versions Chelsea thought they bought? This is why this Chelsea side is starting to scare the Premier League, and why the most important part of the Rosenior era hasn't even arrived yet. Liam Rosenior didn't arrive at Chelsea with the luxury of easing in gradually. He arrived on January the 6th, 2026, with the season already demanding immediate answers, and the club's entire mood already shaped by months of frustrating volatility and inconsistency. So the first thing he did wasn't chase some vague idea of beautiful football or try to implement a complex philosophy. He chased clarity. Simple, obvious clarity. Not in press conference interviews, not through catchy slogans, but in the actual way Chelsea started playing matches. Because in those first couple of weeks under any new manager, you can usually tell pretty quickly whether they're genuinely building a sustainable system or just surfing short-term results and hoping for the best. With Rosenior, the early evidence points to something much more specific and intentional. Chelsea are rapidly becoming a team that can win games in 2 completely different ways, and that versatility is exactly where the scary part begins. Rosenior's very first match as Chelsea boss was the FA Cup win away at Charlton, and it played out like a deliberate rehearsal for structure and patterns. Chelsea dominated with 73.5% possession, attempted 30 shots and put 16 of them on target. That's not just standard dominance, that's a team actively rehearsing specific patterns, recycling attacks patiently, pinning a side deep into their own half, and sustaining relentless pressure until the game eventually breaks open. And that matters enormously because it introduces the first pillar of what the Rosenior era is going to be built on. Chelsea can suffocate you again, properly suffocate you, not necessarily with chaotic, frantic pressing, but with intelligent repetition, with wave after wave of controlled attacks and enough technical security and possession to keep restarting those attacks even when the first attempt breaks down. Then came the first genuine stress test of Rosenior's tenure. Chelsea 2-3 Arsenal in the Carabao Cup semi-final first leg, his first home match in charge. Chelsea lost, sure, but that game is actually really important because it exposed the exact problem he's desperately trying to fix, while also showing the new mentality he's trying to install across the squad. Chelsea were missing a huge chunk of their spine. Caicedo suspended, James and Palmer both injured, Gusto injured as well, plus several players dealing with illness. And Rosenior's own pre-match focus on Arsenal's dangerous set-piece threat becomes brutally relevant almost immediately, because Chelsea concede early from a corner exactly what he'd warned about. But here's the key difference from earlier in the season. They didn't fold under that pressure. They responded with real character. Alejandro Garnacho comes off the bench and scores twice, turning a match that easily could have died into a tie that remained genuinely alive for the second leg. In isolation, that's just a nice cameo from a substitute. But in the bigger story Rosenior is writing, it's an early marker of what he's reviving inside the squad. Players making decisive actions with real conviction, and the bench contributing with clear purpose, rather than just panic and desperation. Even in defeat, you could see the actual shape of the project taking form. Chelsea weren't naively trying to win with perfect total control. They were trying to survive the difficult moments that normally kill them completely, and then punch back hard when the opportunity appeared. Now the most revealing early Rosenior match might actually be the one that looked least glamorous on the surface. Chelsea 2-0, Brentford, his first Premier League game in charge. Chelsea had just 45.8% possession, took only 6 shots compared to Brentford's 15. 15, yet still won comfortably 2-0. The expected goals were incredibly tight, 1.59 versus 1.52. This is absolutely not Chelsea dominated from start to finish. This is Chelsea intelligently managed the match. That's a genuinely massive shift in approach, because previous versions of this Chelsea team often chased control in completely the wrong way. Lots of the ball for the sake of it, lots of territorial dominance, and then one messy transition catches them out, and the whole thing collapses. This Brentford performance suggests Rosenior is prioritising something fundamentally different first. Actual game state control, rather than just possession statistics. If you don't have the ball, you don't panic and chase it desperately. If the opponent has more volume and shots, you protect the dangerous middle areas, force them into lower quality attempts, and calmly live with a few uncomfortable moments. And when your clear moment comes to strike, you take it clinically. That's exactly how serious title-challenging teams win across long seasons. Not by being absolutely perfect every single week, but by winning games they shouldn't look particularly comfortable in. Then in the Champions League against Paphos, Chelsea 1-0. This was Chelsea flipping into the completely other mode. Possession-heavy, territory-heavy, absolutely relentless pressure. Chelsea had 71.4% possession, 21 shots to just 4, and 7 shots on target compared to 2. And they racked up 15 corners to just 2, which really tells you the entire story. Paphos were being pinned back for long, exhausting stretches, basically living inside their own penalty box and defending for their lives. The winner carries another important detail. Caicedo, the same player who was suspended for the Arsenal match, scores the decisive goal here. It's not just a goal for the 3 points, it's a symbol of Rosenior's early message to his key players. One bad moment, one forced absence, one wobble in form doesn't define you anymore. Move forward. Then came Crystal Palace away. Chelsea 3-1. Match reporting frames it as Chelsea rising to 4th place, at least temporarily, noting it as back-to-back league wins in Rosenior's first 2 Premier League games, plus extending a remarkable 17-game league unbeaten run against Palace specifically. What's genuinely significant isn't only the scoreline itself, it's how the entire game fits the emerging profile Rosenior is building. Estêvão scores off a Palace defensive error, yes, but it still requires serious pace, composure under pressure, and clinical end product to capitalise. Chelsea aren't just creating chances anymore, they're actually punishing mistakes. The second goal is exactly the kind of repeatable pattern that Rosenior will absolutely love. Quick regain in transition, sharp combination play, then a forward finishes decisively. João Pedro doing exactly what he's there to do. The third is another control signal. Enzo Fernández steps up confidently and buries the penalty emphatically when it matters. And then, crucially, the match also gives you an honest warning label about what still needs work. The expected goals breakdown shows Palace's XG was heavily driven by set plays, 1.68 set play XG, which aligns with their late consolation goal from a corner. That's exactly the kind of detail that keeps this analysis grounded and honest. Chelsea are clearly improving rapidly, but the dark arts of defending the box, especially late in games, especially on dead balls, still needs serious tightening. So here's the early conclusion, backed by what we can actually measure and see with our own eyes. In just a matter of weeks, Chelsea have already clearly shown they can smother teams with sustained, patient pressure when they want to. Charlton, Paphos. Win pragmatically without dominating the ball or the shot count. Brentford. Hurt you badly in transition while still controlling the key phases of the match. Palace. And stay genuinely competitive even when key pillars of the team are missing through suspension or injury. Arsenal. That's the foundation. That's the reset happening in real time. And it sets up the rest of the story perfectly, because now the real question isn't just, are Chelsea in good form? It's much deeper. What exactly has Rosenior actually changed in the structure? How they defend without the ball, how they protect in rest defense, and what specific roles individuals are playing. That's unlocking this wave of confidence across the entire squad. That's where this story becomes properly dangerous. Because if he's actually fixed the foundations, not just papered over the cracks, then Chelsea aren't just in form, they're back. Chelsea haven't just suddenly started winning matches, they've started playing like a team with genuine, repeatable answers to different problems. And the most important clue is this. Across the first few weeks of the Rosenior era, Chelsea have consistently operated from a 4-2-3-1 base formation, and crucially, they've used that exact same structure to win games in very different match states and circumstances. That consistency matters enormously, because it allows Rosenior to do something most new managers simply simply can't do this early. Standardize roles and responsibilities while still rotating personnel based on fitness and form. Let's break down the structure in the 4 phases that actually decide whether a tactical system is real or just temporary. Build-up play, chance creation, pressing, and rest defense. Chelsea's match formations under Rosenior have been remarkably consistent. Against Charlton, 4-2-3-1. Against Brentford, 4-2-3-1. Against Paphos, 4-2-3-1. Against Crystal Palace, 4-2-3-1. The big tactical lever here isn't the shape itself, it's who actually partners Moisés Caicedo in that pivot and what that specific partner is asked to do in each match. You can already see Rosenior building a pivot that can intelligently switch between different functions: ball security and tempo control. Enzo Fernández, ball winning and counter-press stability. André Santos, and even a hybrid extra controller role. Reece James, used as a midfielder against Paphos. That's not just random rotation to keep everyone happy. That's Rosenior systematically testing which type of pivot partnership best suits which specific opponent. Look at the confirmed lineups and you'll see the pattern. Against Brentford, Caicedo and Enzo sitting behind Palmer, Neto and Garnacho with João Pedro up top. Against Crystal Palace, Caicedo and André Santos in the double pivot, with Enzo pushed higher as the central creator. Against Paphos, Caicedo and Reece James in midfield together with a rotated starting 11 and Delap as the striker. That pivot flexibility is one major reason Chelsea already look harder to play against. They're not relying on just one single rhythm or approach. In a Rosenior 4-2-3-1, the first aim isn't to look pretty or play elaborate patterns for the sake of it. It's to exit pressure cleanly and safely, then decide quickly whether the game should be slowed down and controlled or accelerated forward. 2 different games show these 2 distinct modes really clearly. Mode A will pin you deep in your own half, Paphos. Against Paphos, Chelsea played the full territorial domination game, 71.4% possession, 21 shots to just 4 15 corners to 2 7 shots on target to 2. That corner count really matters. As evidence, it's an objective signal that Chelsea weren't just passing the ball around aimlessly. They were living in the final third, recycling attacks repeatedly, forcing blocks and desperate clearances, and immediately restarting pressure. In this specific type of game, the double pivot becomes a stable platform. Caicedo protects against any potential counter. James helps circulate possession and sustain attacks. And the 3 behind the striker can rotate positions freely without Chelsea ever losing their defensive shape. Mode B, we don't need the ball to control you. Brentford. Against Brentford, Chelsea won with the completely opposite profile, 45.8% possession, just 6 shots compared to Brentford's 15, yet Chelsea still won comfortably 2-0, which tells you Rosenior wasn't chasing volume or statistics. He was chasing control of the critical zones that actually matter, the centre of the pitch, the penalty box, and the dangerous moments immediately after turnovers. This is the early sign of a genuinely serious structure taking shape. Chelsea can actively choose when to dominate possession and when to simply dominate space and deny danger. The easiest way to spot a team that's rapidly becoming coached properly is this simple test. Attackers stop taking turns improvising individually and start attacking in coordinated combinations. Look at the recurring cast of characters. João Pedro as the striker reference point and a constant threat regardless of what style Chelsea are playing. Pedro Neto as the ball carrier and outlet wide who can drive forward. Garnacho as a direct runner who can instantly change the tempo. Already proved it with a brace against Arsenal. Enzo alternating intelligently between deeper controller and advanced creator, depending on who his pivot partner is. Then the Palace match adds the exciting new chapter. Estêvão starts and scores on his debut, and Chelsea's win is built just as much on speed and decisiveness as it is on possession. Importantly, Palace also confirms the shape held firm even under stress. Even with game state shifts and momentum swings, Chelsea stayed in their 4-2-3-1, rather than dissolving into chaotic improvisation. In this structure, the press is deliberately simple and repeatable. The number 10 steps up aggressively next to the striker, creating a front 2. The wingers lock onto the opponent's fullbacks or wide outlets, and the double pivot protects any central access or passing lanes through the middle. It's not about pressing frantically for the sake of it or to look energetic. It's about pressing intelligently on specific triggers, and the clear evidence that Chelsea are winning games in low possession states, like Brentford, suggests the press is being used selectively and smartly, not emotionally. If you want the quickest, most honest explanation for why Chelsea suddenly looks so much more stable and solid, it's this. Rosenior's Chelsea are keeping more players in positions that actively protect the next phase of play before the ball is even lost. That's rest defense, what the team looks like structurally behind the ball while they're still attacking. And the impressive 3 wins, 1 goal conceded run across Brentford, Paphos and Palace fits that idea perfectly. Chelsea aren't perfect yet, obviously, but they're conceding far less because they're giving away fewer open field disasters where opponents can just run at them. Even in the Palace game where they did concede, that goal came very late in the match, and the broader match profile still clearly shows Chelsea doing more than enough to properly manage the contest and win away from home. Rosenior hasn't somehow reinvented Chelsea's entire identity in just 3 weeks. That would be impossible. He's done something much more realistic and, honestly, much more dangerous for opponents, locked in a consistent 4-2-3-1 base that everyone understands. Built a pivot that can change its function without needing to change the entire team, and made Chelsea genuinely capable of winning both the possession game and the space game, with real match data already showing both modes working effectively. That's exactly why opponents are starting to feel something different when they face Chelsea now. They're not just talented anymore, they're becoming predictably difficult to break down and beat. And predictably difficult is exactly what title-challenging teams are built on. The clearest sign that Rosenior's work is landing isn't the scorelines, it's how individual players are behaving inside their roles. Decision-making is faster, movements are cleaner, responsibility is clearer, and across the squad, confidence is returning in specific, measurable ways. Look at how Estêvão is playing now. He receives the ball in zones where his first instinct is to attack, not hesitate. He knows when to stay wide, when to attack space, and when to finish. That clarity breeds confidence. João Pedro finally has a stable platform to work from. His job is crystal clear: occupy centre-backs, attack space aggressively, finish moves. When supply is consistent, finishing becomes assured. And Garnacho is being used as a temperature changer, not a system breaker. He can attack defenders directly without carrying the entire burden. Understanding your impact window unleashes explosiveness. In the middle of the pitch, Enzo Fernández is playing closer to decisive actions, without being overloaded defensively. He looks like a player who knows when the game belongs to him. Confidence here is composure under responsibility. Beside him, Caicedo's role has been simplified: protect space, win duels, progress cleanly. But Rosenior added one crucial element: permission to step forward when the moment's right. Trust elevates him from destroyer to decision-maker. Andre Santos is thriving in the unglamorous work, holding space, winning second balls, keeping Chelsea compact. Clear role, clean execution. At the back, Badiashile looks more assured because he's defending within clearer structure, less exposed to desperate recovery situations, more often defending forward-facing. Predictability breeds confidence for centre-backs. On the left, Cucurella's role is now about intelligent timing: when to step high, when to hold, when to tuck in. Not trying to be everywhere, that restraint sharpens his work. And on the right, James's confidence comes through control, not overlaps. His positioning stabilizes the entire flank. He sets tempo, offers outlets, protects transitions. Leadership through structure. Even young Akempong is being introduced into a system that protects him, not exposes him. Confidence built slowly lasts longest. He aligned player confidence with tactical responsibility. Nobody's improvising, nobody's guessing their role. When a squad stops guessing, performance stops fluctuating. Chelsea aren't just improving collectively, they're stabilizing individually, and that's usually the last step before a team becomes genuinely dangerous. Chelsea are starting to suffocate teams late in games for one simple reason: their structure survives pressure. Under Liam Rosenior, Chelsea don't chase the final whistle, they control it. The distances between lines stay compact. The double pivot protects the centre. Fullbacks choose moments instead of forcing them. And when the game stretches, Chelsea already have players positioned to win the next duel, not just the current one. That's why opponents fade, and why leads are being managed rather than defended in panic. This is not intensity for intensity's sake, it's energy efficiency. Chelsea can serve, then squeeze. But the ceiling is clear too. Set-piece defending still leaks pressure. Late-box marking needs sharper communication. And against elite opponents, Chelsea will need more consistent chance creation when transitions are denied. These are refinements, not rebuilds. The difference between a strong team and a dominant one. The key point is this. The foundation is already in place. Chelsea now finish games organised, calm and in control. That's why this feels different, and that's why Chelsea FC aren't just improving, they're becoming inevitable.